Hello, this is the instructional video for successfully completing computer lab assignment number 2. I'm going to look at the modules. In this particular course, the computer lab assignment number 2 is loaded into module 8. This might vary slightly for your course, so you may have to look for the assignment. Remember, this is Unit 2, so you can always navigate through Unit 2 in the modules. Here is the Computer Lab 2 assignment. Remember that there's a specific due date and that this assignment is worth 40 points. If you look down here below, this is the data file. It's in CSV format. This is the same data file that we use for Computer Lab assignment number 1. If you've already saved it to your desktop or have already loaded it into JASP, go ahead and just use that. If for some reason you were not able to do that before, I loaded it here for ease of access, so you can go ahead and just click on there. Additionally, I loaded in some hints for completing Computer Lab assignment number 2. It's a PDF and it will help guide you if you feel a little bit lost. I'm going to go ahead and click on the assignment here, and here you're going to see the directions on getting into JASP. So you'll remember from the first video or assignment that we had to go ahead and log into JASP. If you haven't downloaded it to your computer, you can go ahead and do that. I already have JASP on my computer, so I'm just going to go ahead and access JASP here. I was playing around in JASP but before. Let me go ahead and move this screen recorder up. If we go back here, the instructions are to look at the data for number of siblings, height, anxiety level before the semester, and semester units. That gives you a hint of what we're going to be exploring in terms of z-scores. If I click back here on JASP, I can go ahead and move over some of those variables. I like to do it one at a time because it keeps things very clear in terms of means and standard deviations, but you're welcome to move as many of the variables as you would like over. All at the same time. Here is number of siblings, anxiety before the semester, I believe I said height, and let's see, what was the last, semester. Semester units is the last variable we were going to look at. Now, JASP does this great job of creating these descriptive statistics for you. We already are familiar with this from Computer Lab assignment number 1. Here we can go ahead and look at these values just briefly to get a sense of what they represent. Here we can see the mean for number of siblings is 2.56. I know that sounds a little bit strange, but we'll get decimals like that in statistics. Standard deviation is 1.4, and then anxiety level, here is the mean, height, semester units, standard deviation for each of those variables. So this is a guide to let you know that in order to calculate z-scores, we're going to need means and standard deviations. Remember, a z-score is the standard distance from the mean of a particular score measured in standard deviation. Once we have that data here, you can either write that down or screenshot it or just continue to navigate between your computer assignment and JASP. Let's go ahead and go back to our computer assignment and see what we're being asked here. So for the first question, I'm asking you to move the variable of siblings over. We already did that. Now you should, in paragraph format, report the mean and standard deviation for that variable. And then after you do that, I want you to look at the data set and report the number of siblings that participant 2 number has. Okay, that's going to be tricky, right? We should go back and look at the data, although we can usually see that data in JASP, if I remember correctly. Let's open the data. Here it is. Give it a second to upload the data. Okay, so what was the question that I was asking you in Canvas? I said, look for the number of siblings that participant 2 has. Once we have the data open, you can use JASP to look at the data. You could look at the original data. Here we have participant number 2. So if we look at participant number 2, screen recorder needs to be moved up. Here's participant number 2, and if we look at the variables across the top, we're going to scroll to number of siblings, and that particular participant has 7 siblings. Okay, that seems a bit high. Remember, we looked at the descriptive statistics from before, and we saw the mean and standard deviation. At this point, we need to plug into our equation the values for the particular participant, that's 7, the mean based on JASP, and the standard deviation, and that will give us our z-score for participant number 2 in terms of the number of siblings that they have. Now you want to go through and talk about what that z-score represents. If it's a positive z-score, it means that the person is scoring higher than the mean. If it's a negative z-score, they're scoring lower than the mean. And you want to talk about what it means to have 7 siblings as compared to the mean of, I think it was about 2.5. Let's go ahead and look at question number 2. Question number 2 and 3 are similar to number 1. Here again, you're going to be calculating a z-score based on the mean and standard deviation for a specific variable. So for question number 2, you're going to be moving height over and calculating the height for participant number 56. And for question number 3, you're going to be moving over anxiety level before the semester starts and looking at the raw score for participant number 23. Each of these, I want you to calculate the z-scores and interpret what those z-scores mean. If we go to the hints section of the course, I have given you the equations that you need for the calculation of z-scores. That's also in your chapter. Let's look at this really quickly. I suggest you read through the whole section if you're having any issues or questions with z-scores. Here's the equation that we need to calculate a z-score from a population. This is a sample, so we're going to be using the sample formula. Here we have the z-score equals the raw score minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. So you need to apply that to questions 1, 2, and 3. Question 4 is slightly different. It's going to be based on the idea of me giving you the z-score and you using that z-score to identify the raw score. So just through simple isolation of the variables that you might have experience with through algebra or pre-algebra, the new equation for question 4 is x equals a z-score times the standard deviation plus the mean of the distribution. Here, this time I'm asking you to move over the variable of semester units, and then I give you the z-score of 1.87. Now that's a positive score, so that means that this student is going to score higher than the mean. We can go back and look at the mean in a second. Now I want you to indicate how many units a student who scores a z-score of 1.87 is taking. And I want you to look through the data. Additionally, I want you to apply the logic of a z-distribution and the z-table. Each of these are in your OER. I've noted the pages 102 and 110. This way you can talk about what it means for a student to have that z-score, have it translate onto a raw score, and then consider what it means to take that many units. Let's go ahead and look briefly at the semester units here from the descriptive results section. Now, if we look at the mean for semester units is 11.7. That's pretty interesting because full-time status is 12 units. Now, if we say the z-score is, I think, 1.87, we know that that z-score has to be higher. It means 1 8/7 of a standard deviation higher than the mean. And I want you to remember that when we're talking about z-distributions and z-scores, the step away is not 1, it's 1 standard deviation. So if we look at the standard deviation, we can say that's almost 3. So 1 step away from the mean is almost 3 units. I know that's a little tricky, but I don't want you to be thinking about individual semester units, but I want you to be thinking about means and standard deviations or steps away from that mean. Okay, so this video should help you complete that assignment. And if you have any questions or concerns, go ahead and reach out to me. You can also post them on the Q&A for the course. As many of your peers are going through the same assignment and may have similar questions, I will float in and out of that discussion board and answer as many questions as I can, and I'll also allow your peers to comment in on that as well. If you would like to send your if you would like to send your paragraphs to me before they are due, I'm more than happy to give you feedback on your writing style as well as your interpretation of z-scores. I will see you back in the next video for this course.